All right, here we go. Welcome and good morning on this Wednesday, everyone. It is the Neal Larson Show. Yet again, flying solo today. Tomorrow also, Julie will return on Friday. It's a big day. And Trump right now, we'll get to a lot of this, but Trump right now is at the White House taking questions from reporters. They're actually raising and lifting a couple of flagpoles at the White House designed to be there for generations to come. And it's a sort of a Trump contribution to the White House grounds. But right now, hiccups. He's taking some questions from reporters. I've been listening in. A lot of them, of course, are about the situation in Iran. Let's tune in.
We're doing that. We're taking them out by the thousands. Murderers, drug dealers, people
immigration here.
Insane from insane asylums. What they gave to us, fellas, they gave. Do we have anybody in here that's a member of the? No, I don't think so. You've known all these people for a long time. Any illegal immigrants in here now? If they were, they'll find out.
Right.
They'll be checking you. You won't believe it. Your whole life will be destroyed because of this press conference. Watch. They'll destroy these people. I didn't want to tell them that before they stood up. But they'll end up being, he's a so-and-so. This one is from you know where. Don't worry. I think you're going to be okay.
Sure.
I'll be right behind you. Far behind you. I'll be right behind you. Now, look, we have to take care of our farmers. We have to take care of people that run leisure, hotels. I mean, we have to take care of them. But most importantly, we have to get the criminals out of our country. And Biden let in thousands and 11,888 murderers. Many of them murdered more than one person. Can you believe it? Many, almost 50% of them murdered more than one person. He let them into our country. They emptied out the jails of countries from all over the world, from the Congo, from Venezuela, from all over the place. They emptied out the jails, many of them. I would. If I were running one of the countries, I would have emptied out my prison population into the U.S., and many countries did. And we're getting them out, okay? We're getting them out. Thank you very much. Let's watch this. Brian, go ahead. Are you okay?
I'm just going to follow up on the immigration real quickly.
Yeah.
Can you comment on the impact of the Trump card and how much revenue this?
Yeah, we have a thing called the Trump card. This has not been done before or thought of. And for $5 million, this is usually people that would either be working for companies like Apple, I think is going to buy a lot of them, because they can't get people into the country. You know, if you come in through the southern border, you have no problem. You can be a criminal, you can be a drug dealer, and you have no problem. But if you go and graduate number one in your class from a great school, you can't get a job because there's no access to getting it. You can't get a green card. So we're going to sell that to people, in some cases wealthy, in some cases not wealthy. They'll be paid for by universities. Look at Harvard. They got $53 billion. That whole thing is coming to an end. It's amazing what we found out. What a disgrace. They have $53 billion. We gave them 5, 6, and some people say it's as much as $9 billion over a short period of time. So that's very much coming to. They want to make a deal more than, I would say Harvard wants to make a deal more than Iran wants to make a deal, and Iran wants to make a deal. I mean, a lot of things are happening on a lot of fronts, Brian. A lot of good things are happening. And frankly, you know, it's a little bit of a, as we used to say liberal, now they say progressive. I use the word liberal. Progressive's too nice a word because they're destroying the country. They're really
all right, President Trump answering the question, the reporter there, about the Trump card. Earlier, this was just moments ago, he was asked about the bombing in Iran and if he was still considering an American operation on Iran.
Have you been answered questions about whether you are moving closer or you believe the U.S. is moving closer to striking Iranian nuclear facilities? Where's your mindset on that?
I can't say that, right? You don't seriously think I'm going to answer that question. Will you strike the Iranian nuclear component? And what time exactly, sir? Sir, would you strike it? Would you please inform us so we can be there and watch? I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. you would have had a country. It's very sad to watch this. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's so, everyone thought it was going to be the reverse. I didn't think so. And I was telling them, you got to do something. You got to negotiate. And at the end, last minute, they said, no, we're not going to do that. And they got hit. Remember 60 days? And then came the 60. 61 is going to become a very famous number. That was one hell of a hit, that first hit. That was one hell of a hit. Not sustainable, to be honest. That's where it ended. It ended on the first night, yes.
Is it too late, though? Do you think it's too late to now?
Really, nothing's too late. The only thing too late is Powell.
Okay, so Trump, these questions that Trump obviously cannot answer, and he mocked the fact that he can't answer the question. Well, yes, Iran, I'm going to bomb you in this location at this time. And, no, he's not going to answer that. There's uncertainty as a tool for him, and it should be. But we do have a lot to talk about in regards to this. You probably saw the news about Iran's very, cryptic and alarming tweet. I will say this, crazy people use this kind of stuff as a tool. And they basically said that there's a surprise coming that will be remembered for centuries. And, okay, well, I mean, I remember Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-il, and in North Korea, the mullahs of Iran have always said these massively over-the-top things that are threatening, and they don't deliver. Quite often, it's an empty threat. However, we do know they are developing a nuclear program. They'd love to have a nuclear bomb. But do they have something that they could deploy that would be remembered for centuries? I highly doubt it, but you don't want to take any chances. So you have that. Tehran, of course, is evacuating. Did you see the aerial footage of the interstates? Well, they're probably not interstates. They're just highways, big highways in and out of Tehran, just filled with cars, people leaving, millions of people trying to get out. And then, I don't know, you had people on social media saying that was evil. And no, it's actually saving lives, because Trump is very, very serious about this. If you go back in time, Trump has always said that he is about getting rid of, preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. This is Michael Knowles. He made this point very, very succinctly. Listen.
Trump, they pointed out, was elected on getting us out of wars in the Middle East.
You cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon.
When did Trump suggest that Iran was even on his mind?
Everybody, no nuclear weapons. You can't give them nuclear weapons.
It'd be one thing if Trump had campaigned on stopping Iran's nuclear program.
Don't let Iran have nuclear weapons. That's my only thing I have to tell you today.
But for Trump to just foist this policy on us, completely out of the blue.
Including Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. That's all. They can't have nuclear weapons. It's too destructive, too powerful. They can't have it.
Okay, so we're only halfway through this montage. I'm not going to play the whole thing for you. But Michael Knowles makes the perfect point here. Donald Trump's always said this. He said it from the get-go. Iran, if they get a nuclear weapon, they certainly have the will to use a nuclear weapon. That's why you can't let them have one. They would use a nuclear weapon offensively. And so far, most nations, with the exception of maybe China and Russia, most nations' nuclear weapons are defensive. So Iran simply cannot. And it's fascinating to watch this, because this is creating this rift within the Republican Party. And you have Tucker Carlson, who is now playing gotcha with Ted Cruz. And Ted Cruz is not really used to this, but I want to play this for you. And I will tell you, I've always had kind of mixed feelings toward Tucker Carlson. Respect him immensely. His exit from Fox, created his own platform. All of that's great. And when he knocks it out of the park, he really knocks it out of the park. Sometimes we see lousy Tucker, and I think this is a good example of that.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's,
because,
it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even. You don't know anything about Iran, so
okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
Who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
Israel.
Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay, this is lousy. This is such a bad look for Tucker Carlson. Now, if you already agree with Tucker, and you might be a libertarian who doesn't like Israel, and you have a natural posture against Israel, maybe you're cheering Tucker on. But I will tell you, if you're a neutral person about this, you look at it and go, okay, because Ted Cruz wants the Iranian regime toppled, he therefore needs to know the exact population of Iran. Like, that's a weird connection there. And if the whole approach here is I want to make Ted Cruz look ignorant. I want to make him look stupid. I want to show my intellectual superiority. So I will go to Wikipedia 20 minutes before this interview. I will know the population of Iran. It's very unlikely he will. And then I'll make him look stupid. And then from that, you can extrapolate he doesn't know anything about Iran, but he wants to topple them. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'll be honest with you. The approach here is devoid of any intellectual depth at all by Tucker Carlson. It's a trick and it's a gimmick, and I think it's beneath him. And then to play a semantic game around the word we. If you listened when Ted Cruz was talking about how we're bombing Iran, we could just mean my friends, the people I agree with, the good guys, the ones who want to destroy evil. That we. Tucker changed the context of we to Americans, the American government. And then he's like, no, we in that context are not bombing it. And then he's like, wait, I thought you said we just did. Well, it was Tucker that changed the definition of we. So, I mean, it's all just so foolish and juvenile. And when you're in the middle of a back and forth like that and you feel attacked, then you respond. And sometimes you don't always respond effectively. But if I'm Ted Cruz, I totally get why he's reacting the way that he did in that moment. But the truth is, and this is how I look at it, I like to boil it down very, very simply. Can we be the world's police? No, we can't. I'm not for that. Should we be in foreign wars indeterminately? No, we shouldn't. I'm not for that. Should there be companies getting super wealthy off war making? No, I'm opposed to that. All those things I can find common ground with on the libertarians. The problem is their pendulum swings almost all the way to the other side, where they say even when you have existential threats to our allies and our interests, a stated intention to annihilate our ally, and then this growing capability to be able to do it, you still get stuck in your libertarian prison of, we don't go anywhere outside the boundaries of America. I can't buy into that. And quite frankly, we have a moral imperative to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon because they have a stated intention of using it. And they're not. This is a regime that it has needed to be destroyed and decimated. Will Trump get it done? I don't know. I really don't. And look, regime change is not the official policy. That's a very dicey road to start walking down. I understand that. And killing the heads of state of foreign countries, even the worst of the worst, is not a game you want to get into. That is a recipe for World War III. So I don't know that I'm all in on annihilating the Ayatollah, even though he probably deserves to be annihilated. But you create a vacuum, you don't know what fills it all the time. So I understand why we have that policy. You don't kill heads of state, as bad as they are. However, you can kill their scientists. You can kill their military leaders. You can kill the people that are directly involved in developing a nuclear policy. That's all fair game, especially when they have stated their intentions of what they're going to do with it. They have threatened the United States over and over and over again. In fact, it's becoming kind of clear they wanted to assassinate Donald Trump. They issued videos of, well, sort of fantasizing about assassinating Donald Trump. How many more threats do you think we need, my libertarian friends, before we say, yeah, it's time to do something about this? So I got a text earlier this morning, and I felt like my response was very measured. It was, can you answer me this? Why does Israel have the Samson option? I'm not sure what they're talking about there. Why do they feel they have the right to nuke anybody and everybody? That's a fabrication. Israel's never said we have the right to nuke anybody and everybody. They've never nuked anybody. So I don't know where that even comes from. That's just a figment that whoever texted this in created. Someone said, and Israel attacked them first, and everybody has nukes. The whole thing is fishy. Now, wait a minute. Israel attacked them first? You have to wait to be bombed? You have to wait for your civilians to die, even though you have a regime that has already killed, either directly or through their proxies, a number of your civilians. You've practiced restraint in the past. And as they're nearing the capability of having a nuclear weapon, they take it out. They also took great care to limit civilian casualties. I wish I understood. Maybe I don't, but there's a curiosity in my mind. Why is there this natural antagonism and disdain for Israel? Certainly among the left. Lots of anti-Semitism can be found in the progressive left in America. But there's a corner of it in American conservatism that overlaps with the libertarian wing, and I don't get it. It is an ally. It is a democratic nation. They love freedom. They love their people. And they are all alone in that region. Now, they have created partnerships that are strategic with Muslim nations like Saudi Arabia, like Jordan, where they do have a very workable relationship. But there are those that do want them dead. See, someone said, it's me, Neal. I'm so tired of Israel. We don't need to be involved. What are you talking about? What is Iran? I don't get this. Somebody help me out here. Iran has said they want to annihilate the United States. We're the great Satan. Our best option here to eliminate that threat right now is through Israel. So where does it come from? Tell me, where does it come from? I'd love to hear. 208-542-1079. I got to take a break. I'm way past time here. It's 8:27 now on News Talk 107.9.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hey, it's Brad from Now 105.1 and QP99. I'm in the studio here. I love our studios, by the way. Ranger Rick back there. There's Neal and Julie doing their thing. Hey, when you want to advertise on the radio, what do? You call the radio station, right? But what do you do when you want to advertise on Facebook and Instagram and Hulu and Disney Plus and Peacock and the other TV streaming services? You can kind of click around on them and make guesses or read books or take courses online on how to do that advertising. Or you could call us at the radio station. At Sandhill Media, we take care of your local radio and digital marketing. So reach out to us at sandhillmediagroup.com and we'll make sure that your message gets heard and seen wherever your customers are.
It's 8:32 now on News Talk 1079, the Neal Larson Show, Wednesday edition. If you'd like to reach the program, 208-542-1079. And, okay, here we are. We're back. Some headlines, by the way, it is SCOTUS season now that June's here. And a breaking news headline this morning, which I think you're going to like. Supreme Court has upheld Tennessee's ban on transgender care. Idaho, I believe, has a similar law, which means you can't be doing gender transition stuff on minors. And the Supreme Court, in a 6-3 ruling, and glad that I'm assuming Amy Coney Barrett did not stab us in the back this time, but they ruled that states have the right to enact these bans. They didn't say that states can't provide surgery. So, in other words, whatever the state laws are, that will stand. States that allow it will continue to allow it, and states that ban it will continue to, or will be able to ban it now. And this is good, but this is another example of the media and how biased they are, and this delivering a major blow to transgender rights. So that tells you the lens and their bias. At least they led. By the way, that's the very first sentence. At the end of the sentence, after a comma, they said, delivering a major blow to transgender rights. They could have said which bolsters state rights or which allows states to protect children or which, but no, and which would be bias on the other side. But in fact, the most neutral one would be in a nod to states' rights. That probably would be the best way to describe it. But they can't help but tell you who they are. In a 6-3 ruling that's likely to have a broad impact, as 24 other states have already enacted laws similar to the one in Tennessee, bars gender transition surgery, puberty blockers, and hormone therapy. Those laws now look set to survive similar legal challenges. The ruling does not affect states that do not have such bans, meaning care in those states will still be available. The court, in an opinion authored by Chief Justice John Roberts, concluded that the Tennessee law does not constitute a form of sex discrimination that would violate the Constitution's 14th Amendment. Trans rights activists have also warned that a ruling allowing bans on care for trans minors could pave the way for similar restrictions aimed at adults. So there was another ruling that was we didn't talk about. We had so much going on yesterday, and it has to do with abortion and nuns in New York State. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of religious liberty regarding a New York State mandate which required employers to fund their employees' abortions through health insurance plans. The order read, the petition for a writ of certiorari, is granted. The judgment is vacated. The case is remanded to the Court of Appeals of New York for further consideration. The case is now headed to a lower court for further review, but this isn't the first time the High Court has sent the mandate back. Since 2017, various religious organizations, including the nuns from Little Sisters of the Poor, have reportedly contested the mandate, asserting that it infringes upon their religious freedom. The Federalist reported the sisters were a part of a religious coalition that launched the Diocese of Albany and Harris lawsuit. The original legislation that mandated abortion health care coverage contained broad exemptions, but these were subsequently narrowed after pressure from the pro-abortion lobby. So We win. It did not say in this how the various justices voted, at least a cursory glance at this particular story. So I don't know how Amy Coney Barrett voted on that one. And since it's a Catholic issue, I'm wondering, as she said, I doubt she recused herself on this one. But that's good Supreme Court news for us this morning. All right, it's 8:37. Swing by Town and Country Gardens. They have everything that you need to make your gardens grow and your lawns lush. Yeah, I could write there, grow your garden, lush up your lawn with Town and Country Gardens, because they have the 4-step lawn program, and you'll save money if you buy all 4 steps at the same time. The first step is called Humates. It's almost like probiotics for your lawns. It helps the microbes, helps everything that really sustain and serve as a foundation for a great lawn. The next step is just some good summer lawn food, just stuff that it likes to eat. Your lawn will start greening up within a few days, and certainly after a couple of mowings and a couple of weeks, you will begin to notice a deeper green and healthy-looking lawn. And then another step and another one after that will help winterize. So they give you the dates, they provide the product for you, and any questions that you have, they'd be happy to answer those questions. But it is formulated specifically for our region, which is something that you don't get at a huge big box chain store. That's more kind of generic and broad. This is specifically tailored to the soils in East Idaho and the climate in East Idaho. So stop off, grab the 4-step lawn program. Julie and I both have done it and love it, and you will too. And of course, they have all the things for your lawn, for your gardens. They have hanging baskets. They've got it all there. South of Idaho Falls, Yellowstone Highway, across from the Budweiser plant in Idaho Falls. We've got to break. It's 8:39. We'll have a little bit of news and come back and continue after this. I do want to talk about this provision, this amendment that Mike Lee has added to the big, beautiful bill that would allow for the sale of public lands, federal land specifically, and what you think of it. I think we're going to do a flash poll next hour once we lay the landscape for you here. We'll be back after this. All right, it's 8:47 on News Talk 1079. So we're keeping an eye on the Supreme Court. I don't know if we're getting any more rulings today or not. I've not gone to SCOTUS blog to find out. But while we've been talking about Iran and Israel and the prospect of Iran getting a nuclear weapon, let's have a flash poll. No call-ins. I want to get this on text from you. Would you support a limited U.S. operation to destroy Iran's nuclear capability, which would probably whatever bunker busting weaponry we have on steroids to drill down, dive deep, and destroy whatever they have underground? Would you be okay? And apparently we've got these headlines that Trump, certainly not, we don't want to be eager or aggressive about this, but we probably have, of any nation on the earth, we have the greatest capability to get this done. So I just want to ask you via text, would you support a very limited U.S.-led operation to destroy Iran's nuclear capability? Yes or no? Text it in on the Stones Automotive Group call and text line 208-542-1079. And I'll share the results here. I'll see what people are saying. Oh, lots of yeses. And someone said, if that's all America does is destroy what's underground, then yes, but they better have proof of it as well. One said no with 3 exclamation marks. And, they're pouring in. You people aren't just listening. You're texting in, and you are overwhelmingly in favor of this. We do. We have lots of yeses, but I do want to share some of the no's on this. The United States needs to stay out of this conflict maybe with the exception of the naval blockade and supplying weapons to Israel. Let me add one more layer to this. What if you found out that Iran is behind efforts to assassinate Donald Trump? Does that change the landscape of this at all for you? And that might be a different retaliation, though, where if they tried to assassinate our president, obviously you want to take out their nuclear capability, but that might be a different transaction. We'll just say it like that. Someone said yes if Israel cannot do it. Yeah, I like that caveat. No, we can't guarantee anything. Wasn't that true of everything in life, though? The folks who are saying yes are also saying yes to World War III. Are they, though? I'm going to tell you this. Many of Iran's neighbors, like Saudi Arabia and they would love to have Iran have no nuclear weapons. I don't believe that this would lead to World War III because there aren't really any other nations that want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. So they have kind of a loose alliance with Russia, but Russia's got their own problems right now. They don't want to make things more complicated. So, yeah. Okay, you know what? I'm encouraged by the texts that have come in. Overwhelmingly, they said, yeah, if you can limit the operation, it's got to be focused, no boots on the ground. It has to be aerial, and it has to be very, very specific. And I think people are saying, yeah. There's a lot of yes buts. And yes, but would have to be totally sure after weapons of mass destruction debacle. That's true. That's true. The Iraq War kind of jaded our trust on this of what we do. So yeah, I get that. I mean, I can understand we're a little twitchy after going through all of that. But here's the problem. I don't know how you prove beforehand to the American people that it's there because I remember Colin Powell, testifying, we have this and we have the mustard gas. We have, all of that. And that turned out to be pretty fabricated. So I don't know. I think if you're Trump, I do know this. I don't think Trump wants to have any kind of an extended war there. Now, are there people who I think would? Lindsey Graham? Probably. So I think there are people that are cheering for aggression and war in the area. I don't know if it's helping their stock portfolio. I don't know what their motivation is. But there are people who seem to be somewhat eager to go to war if we have a premise to go to war. I absolutely do not. I don't want to be in foreign. I want to be out of foreign wars. However, when I look at something like this, I feel like, you know what? They've issued lots of threats to the Western world, certainly to Israel and to the United States. And I think you could find a justifiable premise to do a limited operation. All right, we'll be back. It's 8:54 on News Talk 1079. We have another hour ahead. We also have one last little segment. We'll wrap up this hour just ahead. But I want you to think about public lands and selling public lands. I'm going to try and craft a very, a nuance-filled question about selling public lands and see what you think on that issue as well. It's all ahead. 8:58. Earlier this morning, I interviewed Senator Mike Crapo, asked him about the public lands provision introduced by Mike Lee into the big, beautiful bill. I'll play that answer back for you. And quite frankly, I'll let you know. He said, I'm still studying it. I'm still trying to understand exactly what that would accomplish. But we'll do a flash poll in the next hour on that particular issue. Should the federal government sell public lands to private buyers? We'll have it all for you coming up. 9:07 on News Talk 1079. I think during my interview with U.S. Senator Crapo, I referred to Iran's nuclear facility in question as Frodo, which, of course, we know is Lord of the Rings. It's actually called Fordo. I don't know if I had a temporary bout with dyslexia or what, but it's Fordo. And some retired general, just saw a quote from a retired general saying, look, only America's got the the firepower and the capability to destroy Fordo, and it's got to be done. So you are seeing a growing chorus of voices saying we need to destroy this nuclear site in Iran, and we'll be watching it. Right now, Secretary Hegseth is testifying in Congress, and he's very discreet about what he hasn't told President Trump. One of the questions asked of Secretary Hegseth is, have you given the president a menu of options of what you can do? And he said, I'm not going to answer that question. Right now, we've got to, handle this, and I'll be accountable to Congress in that I will show up, but we're not going to compromise our operational security moving forward. And that's probably the right answer. Meanwhile, we have another hearing underway. The Senate Judiciary Committee is holding a hearing on the Biden cover-up, which I'm like, okay, worth a hearing? Absolutely. But it's going to get lost and forgotten on a day like this where, you look at World War III may be about to happen, and you have Iran threatening the entire globe and a potential operation going on. Like, find a day when that's something like that is not the headliner. Look, it's a legitimate hearing. It isn't just for grandstanding, but if you're going to do the hearing, let's let there be enough attention and bandwidth on it so that it can actually do some good. So you have that. Also, much closer to home, even though it's the big, beautiful bill, which is a federal issue, a Washington issue, it's an issue that could affect Idaho significantly, this idea of selling public land. BLM, Forest Service, we have a lot of agencies that have land in the federal government, and a lot of it's locked up. A lot of it is not locked up, but it's not managed well. Access to it can be problematic. And Mike Lee is saying this could be a revenue source for the federal government. We have lots of land that isn't doing us any good on the federal level, but it could be valuable to a buyer. So could we help out the federal treasury if we were to sell the public land, which you kind of have to look at it. But I will tell you, I have lots of concerns about doing this simply because this public land that we have in Idaho is really important to our way of life around here. It's part of our value system here, is that we can get in our trucks or cars, we can drive a few minutes, an hour or two, and we can be in a beautiful forest or at a mountain lake or whatever and enjoy the benefits of that. I don't want that disrupted just because Washington's been misspending, and now they need to tap into that. But I do want to play this. I asked Senator Crapo right out of the gate about this question, and here's his answer. Your office put out a statement that says you are opposed to the sale of public lands, but there may be some caveat to this, so I'd love your take on it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The fact is that the question of selling our public lands is one that's been around for years and years and years. And I take the position, which I think the vast majority of Idahoans do, that we want our public lands to be available for us to go hunting and fishing and to have open access to. And we have battles over the years about the Forest Service trying to shut down access roads and so forth. And I'm not in favor of wholesale selling off of our public lands. That being said, the federal government has sold portions of our public lands for years and years and years. In fact, the BLM sells thousands of acres of federal land every year. The Biden administration in 2024 sold some land outside of Las Vegas. The Clinton administration identified in its administration over 3 million acres of public lands that they felt were suitable for disposal. And this is the kind of thing that goes on regularly as our BLM and our Forest Service evaluate the lands they're managing and occasionally sell some off. So the question isn't, should we have a wholesale sale of public lands? The question is, what does this amendment actually do? And we're studying it right now to see whether it focuses just on authorizing the sale of lands that have already been identified by Republican and Democrat administrations as available for purposes that could be utilized, or not. And I think that people need to understand what the proposal is, rather than the fury that has been going around in the media mostly.
Yep.
About this is an effort to sell off all of our public lands. It is not that, but we want to make sure that what it is appropriate.
So I guess I would ask the question, if the federal government already does it, meaning they already can do it, why the need for the amendment? And what added capability does this give the federal government to sell public land?
Well, that's what I'm investigating to see, because the amendment directs that these sales be made in certain states. So I'm trying to look and see whether the amendment is needed for that purpose. So you raise a very good question.
All right.
I don't quite yet understand why this was not something that was done in my committee's portion of the bill. It was done in a different part of the bill. It was put out by a different committee. And so we're trying to understand whether the justification is solid for this particular time.
And I appreciate that your office put out a statement. However, I would ask, can you give a commitment that these areas that many Idahoans and many people, you don't have to be an Idahoan, but many people recreate on and enjoy their collectively owned public lands, to be able to go out to hunt and to fish and to take your RV and do dispersed camping and ride your four-wheelers and your razors and your side-by-sides, that those popular places, I would hope that you'd be committed to protecting and keeping in collective ownership so that we can all continue to enjoy those places.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Neil. I mean, that's exactly what I was referring to when I said, all of us love our beautiful world that we have in Idaho and in the other parts of our public lands in the West. And we do use them for hunting, fishing, recreating. And as you have described, we want access to our public lands. And if they are sold, then there will be no trespassing signs put up. And this is the kind of thing that I'll tell you, I will not support doing that to our public lands.
Yeah, okay.
If there's some lands that have already been identified, quite often what happens is the BLM and the state where this land is located, or the Forest Service will say, we could swap lands, and you could better have this land for the purposes you use for grazing or what have you, and we could better use this other land for these purposes. I think that's the kind of land transactions that are appropriate, and that's the kind I'm going to want to work to make sure are the kinds that are authorized.
Well, we had a listener that I thought they texted in earlier this morning. I thought they brought up a good point. Where they said, I would like to see Idaho purchase land from the feds. It can stay public land, but be out of control of the federal government. So is that something that you'd look at? It would still be in government control. There would still be public access, but it would be under state management rather than federal management.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that I'm going to support a bill to do that, because I'd have to look at it and see what the details are.
Yeah.
But I have said forever in my career that the state manages its public land better than the federal government does. As a matter of fact, if you go out and look in our forests and see where we have the bad forest fires and where we have the problems in managing our forests, it's on federal land more than state land, because the state knows how to manage better. And the federal government has all kinds of regulatory and, frankly, other political agendas in play. And so I don't have any problem at all with the state management of public lands.
All right, we're talking with U.S. Senator. Okay, so that was the portion of the interview that we addressed the public lands issue with Senator Crapo this morning. Now, here's a little bit more. This is actually Boise State Public Radio. They have dived into this a little bit. They said a draft budget from the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources, led by Senator Mike Lee, calls for the BLM and the Forest Service to sell between 2 and 3 million acres. And I will tell you right now, that's not a lot of land. Over the next 5 years, land in every western state except Montana would be eligible for sale under the proposal. We are opening underused federal land to expand housing, support local development, and get Washington, D.C. out of the way of communities that are just trying to grow, Mike Lee said in a video announcement. A similar land sale idea previously failed in the U.S. House of Representatives, facing opposition from environmental groups and some Republicans. The version released by the Senate involves far more land in more states. Senator Martin Heinrich, Democrat of New Mexico, the top Democrat on the committee, accused Republicans of taking a sledgehammer to public lands, warning that sales would reduce public access and hurt local economies. And then, that's the Democrat rhetoric style. I get it. The bill requires the BLM and Forest Service to sell between 0.5% and 0.75% of the land they manage for housing development or associated community needs. Eligible states include Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Idaho, Nevada, New Mexico, Oregon, Utah, Washington, or Wyoming. Some members of Congress from Montana, the only Western state absent from the list, have vocalized their disapproval of land sales. National parks, national monuments, and other federally protected areas would be exempt, as would lands with, quote, valid existing rights. I don't know what that means, but there you have it. This is often about barren land next to highways with existing billboards that have no recreational value, said Interior Secretary Doug Burgum in a congressional hearing last week. Okay, so basically, like you're driving out to the site, if I'm going to localize this, and you're driving the highway, whether it's from Idaho Falls or Blackfoot or Mud Lake, whatever, you're driving the highways to that, and a lot of that is INL land, so that would be exempt, obviously, but it would be land like that really does not get used. And this is not me advocating for it. I just want to put it in proper perspective. It seems like this is the type of land that we're talking about here. The stuff that you drive by and you don't really go out and recreate on. We're not talking about areas that already have developed ATV trails but where people love to go camping, where there are creeks and lakes. And so, again, I'm not saying those would be off limits. I would hope they would be. But I think maybe this initial intent. Here's the problem. I'm still not sure I can get on board with that, because in the very same way we haven't been able to trust the federal government to manage this property, I don't know if I trust the government to manage the sale of this property. Too easily it becomes politicized or corrupted. If I were to get on board with something like this, not that anybody needs me to be on board, but if I were in Congress and they needed my vote, I might put some added provisions in this, like it has to be sold to an individual, not a large corporation. Now, if you have a small LLC or something, that might qualify. But what I'm saying is BlackRock can't come in and buy up millions of parcels and acres. I don't want it to be used by developers to purchase and buy it for pennies on the dollar, that they'll develop a little bit and then they're going to flip it and make massive money on it. That doesn't really address housing. That doesn't address community needs, so to speak. That lines the pockets of multi-billion-dollar corporations, and I don't want that. So I don't know, with everything else that so often gets compromised with the federal government, I don't know that we could ever trust that this process would not get compromised. Though, I wouldn't be sometimes if you're driving that highway from Idaho Falls or Blackfoot out to Arco, would I like to have a nice gas station to stop at and grab a drink? Yeah, sure. That'd be great. I guess there is Atomic City if you're on the Blackfoot Highway, but I'm and maybe that already sort of exists, but I do think that the idea just doesn't appeal to me. The risks, I think, are far greater than any benefits that I would see from it. So let's go to the phones. Caller, thanks for waiting a couple of minutes. What's on your mind today?
Well, I saw something on Facebook. They were talking about some land that the forest has in Pocatello, and that it would be sold off. It's a pretty big chunk of forest land, sits back up out of Mink Creek, and there's several trails that have been used for years in there, and that was my concern, was, hey, what's going on? Because there's some real nice trails that the people of Pocatello love to go They mountain bike, hike, there's motorcycle riding and ATV riding up in that area, and it would end all of that up in there. And it just didn't look like the right kind of place. It wasn't like really quite like bordering Pocatello, like they talked about what happened in Las Vegas, right along the border of Vegas. They spread out a little more. This is up on top of the mountaintop up there. And so I don't know if that was so then you don't know on Facebook anymore if you're getting real accurate information. I don't know if that is for real proposed in this bill, or if somebody just picked a plot of land and said, oh, they want to sell this, to drive some stuff about it. So if anybody out there could call and confirm, are they trying to sell? It was several thousand acres up Gibson Jack, Mink Creek up above there. So.
Yeah, and you know what? This is exactly what I'm talking about. I think right now, if it's federal land that is heavily used and enjoyed by recreationists, I think that ought to be off limits. I think they should, and maybe it is, because I have not seen the map. You haven't actually seen the official map. You're just talking about some chatter on Facebook. So I don't want to spread a rumor here, so I just want to frame it carefully here. But I would say a guiding principle for me would be anything that is currently being used and enjoyed by the public should stay that way. And maybe if we're going to do this at all, you would look at land that right now is currently unused and not being enjoyed. So.
Yeah. The question goes back to the beginnings of the state of Idaho. Why aren't we really a state? How come those aren't state lands and not federal lands? I get that we were such a small new state that it was hard to manage, and the management didn't really come into being till about 1917, somewhere in there, that they started to do some management of it, because it did need to be managed. But I know the state of Utah is working towards taking over the management of all of their public lands, and I don't know the if, ands, and whereabouts of all of that, but that was going on last year in Utah, that they wanted to take back their state lands and not have it handled by the feds, because obviously the feds are so far removed from Idaho or Utah or Wyoming that they don't really care how it affects the local people, and it really should be something that's handled by the people. This also, real quickly, it goes back to Spanish law, and the West was quite heavily Spanish. It goes back to Spanish law to have public lands, and the whole idea of that was to still do grazing, mining, timber, and recreation on public lands. And I think it's worked out pretty darn good for us.
Yeah.
We do want to stick mainly to that, but there's some small places along, particularly BLM. I think BLM could sell off quite a bit. And, And it should go to the benefit of the state of Idaho, not to the federal government. So,
yeah, that's a good point, too. Yeah. All right. Thank you for the call. 208-542-1079. Let's go back to the phones. Caller, go ahead.
Yes. Last night, I watched a YouTube discussion by Randy Newberg of Fresh Tracks. He is very, very polite in how he addresses anyone, and he read through the bill and discusses how tracts of land could be sold, and then adjacent tracts to those could then be sold, and so forth. And this just seems ripe for transferring land to people that are very wealthy, or, it just goes on. And, it reminds me of many years ago, Representative Lurcher and Hawkins. There was a bill that was controlling a county road through their property up by Bone, and bill was transferred to Lurcher's committee. He killed it. Representative Denny said, "Oh, yeah, there's no conflict of interest. Now that road is closed." That just goes to show how our representatives do not necessarily look out for the public.
Well,
thank you.
And thank you for the call. And I'm not going to speak to that specific issue, but I will say this. I do think that when you look, and this is the larger issue, when you look at members of Congress, and we have seen what their stock portfolios, their net worths can do, can we really trust them if there's lots of money exchanging hands and maybe they have knowledge about certain land sales months before you and I would know, months or even weeks before, and sometimes it may only be hours before, that they could leverage that knowledge into personal benefit or benefit for their friends? I mean, all of it. I look at it. Does it make sense for 2/3 of Idaho to remain the property of the federal government? Not really, but how we change that is really important. And the thing this is the thing I'm protecting the most, is our way of life, our ability here to, we are blessed. The ratio of people to acres in Idaho is a very, very nice ratio. And I want to keep it that way. And maybe I should put this additional qualifier. The ratio of people to acres we can access for our enjoyment is a really nice ratio. I have friends in Texas. Texas, I believe, has no federal land, none whatsoever. So if you want to go hunting, it works very, very differently there. It's all private hunting. It's all guided hunting. It's all, and here we have lots of nice zones that Fish and Game has designated that you can go into, and you can go hunt elk, and you can go hunt deer. You can go fishing at ponds that are owned by, and now they may have some state parks in Texas, but they're very, very limited. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not throwing shade at Texas here, because Texas would very likely be, if not Idaho, in my top 2 or 3 places I'd live if I couldn't live in Idaho. I really enjoyed Texas. I like their attitude. I like the culture in Texas. And like I said, I like Texas. But that's one element that I would miss deeply if I ever moved to Texas, is having the abundance of federal land you can just go and enjoy. So, it's the BLM, not so much, but I will tell you, the U.S. Forest Service is an agency that I think most Americans still have a pretty good fondness for. And I don't know, maybe it's a childhood memory thing. But when you're driving into the forest and you see one of the big U.S. Forest Service signs and the name of the forest, the caribou, targhee, whatever, you drive into that, it just brings you comfort. I don't know why. It feels like I'm going into a playground. I can go hiking and four-wheeling and fishing and hunt. Like you like that. And that truly is part of the appeal of living in Idaho. That's what I'd want to protect, and I do not want wealthy individuals getting wealthier because of this. I don't want wealthy corporations expanding their holdings because of this. It would, if we did it, it would just need to help the average Idahoan out there. And I don't trust the process to give us that outcome. It is 9:32 on News Talk 107.9. Quick break. We'll come back. 208-542-1079 if you'd like to join me. On the other side, do we have time? Yeah, we'll do it. We'll take this break. We'll come back. We're going to do that flash poll. We'll open up the phones. I want to hear from you. Would you be in favor of selling public land? It'll be phrased as a yes or no, but if you want to add some caveat to it, that's okay. We'll be back after this. All right, 9:37 on News Talk 107.9. I just sneezed, and I think I'm having an allergic reaction. Anyway, welcome back. And want to talk for just a moment before we do this flash poll about Grand Peaks Prime Meats. I love a good steak. It is summer. Actually, as of Friday, it'll be summer. But it's already grilling season. Like maybe the calendar doesn't say summer, but with the weather that we've had the last few days, it's summer and time to grill. And they've got lots of grillable, amazing cuts of meat at Grand Peaks Prime Meats, whether it's a delicious steak, maybe a ribeye or a T-bone or a tri-tip. I mean, they got lots of cuts. You can check it out online at gpprimemeats.com. Or if you like chicken, or if you like dogs, or if you like hamburger patties, they have these flavored hamburger patties that are like jalapeno and cheese flavored. Anyway, it's all there. Pre-cooked, pre-sous vide crock pot meals that are ready to throw in your crock pot and warm up and have a delicious meal. Fill up your freezer with Grand Peaks Prime Meats. gpprimemeats.com is their website. You can check out their packages and their specials there. Okay, here's the deal. We're asking you, public lands, it's our flash poll today. We'd love to hear from you, and we're going to go right to the phones. Caller, what do you have to say about selling federal land in Idaho into private hands?
I say no. No sale of public lands. And then a couple other points. Texas, you were talking about Texas. Texas is 95% private ground.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, if they do sell it, you and I can't go to our favorite spot and buy 10 acres because they're going to sell it in multi-thousand-acre lots. And the only people going to buy it are the rich people, corporations, et cetera, et cetera. So, little people, I assume you don't have millions of dollars in your savings account. So we're out. We're out. There's nothing we can do except lose our access to our hunting and fishing in certain spots. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the call. 208-542-1079. Let's go to the next caller. Go ahead.
I think it's a bad idea.
Okay. Bad idea. All right. We'll count you for that. A no. 208-542-1079. Let me throw a little different viewpoint toward you all. Really funny, all these people who are anti-government are now all for the government owning land. Okay, I mean, I'll take the critique there. I won't respond to it because I want to get to more of these calls, but that's a discussion. Let's go to the next caller. Go ahead, caller. What do you have to say?
Neal, I think it can be done, but it'd be something like 50-acre limit. It has to be an individual, not a corporation that buys. It has to be held for 99 years or more, and you have to be an Idaho citizen.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I mean, I like, you ought to see the phone lines. They're lighting up. Thank you for the call. I appreciate the conversation of having these kinds of caveats. Let's go to the next caller. What do you have to say, caller, about this idea to sell off public land? Go ahead.
Is that me?
Yes, go ahead.
It is not only a no, but a hell no. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. We say that word around here once in a while, when warranted.
Oh, it's a good thing. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for the call. 208-542-1079. And we go to let's go to this one. You know what? I just accidentally hung up on a whole bunch of people. So call back 208-542-1079. And we're asking you about your idea of selling some public land in as part of the big, beautiful bill. Caller, go ahead. Oh, no, you were on. You're okay. Let's go to this caller. Go ahead, caller. What do you have to say?
Not a good idea, but if you do some of it, then you cannot allow no trespassing on trails and access that have been used for many years.
Okay. All right. So recognize existing rights of way. I got that, which might lower the value. And anyway, so that makes it complicated. Let's go to the next caller. What do you have to say about the idea of selling public land? Oh, I hit the wrong button. Let's go to this caller.
Good morning.
Caller, go ahead. You're on.
Yeah, up here in Teton Valley, there's this Thomas Toll guy. He's bought a few ranches along our Teton range here. And he's a nice guy, putting everybody to work and doing this, that, and the other thing. for the community, directing traffic, so not going by everybody's house. Anyway, he was such a nice guy. And I said, well, just wait until he's done using you. Anyway, we've lost accesses into our national forest because he doesn't want trespassing. And thus is the problem. When you sell the land to wealthy people, then they don't want you there. And you get landlocked out of your land.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the call. A good example. Let's go to the next caller. Your thoughts about selling public land.
Hard no for me, access being the first reason. And reason number 2 is the red light district wind farms where you get screwed and you don't even get a kiss. And also the third reason is why, what water are they going to need if they purchase this land? So sorry for taking so much time.
Oh, no, you're good. Thank you for the call. Let's go to the next caller. Go ahead.
Yeah, like Reagan said, we don't need the government to help us get out of our situation. We don't need to sell this land.
Just
I've been homesteaded here for since 1800.
Okay, thanks for the call. Please watch your language if you're going to call and be on the public radio. Don't use foul language. I mean, hell is okay, but the word he said, we can't say that on the air. So you'll get cut off immediately if you do that. Let's go to the next caller. Caller, go ahead. What are your thoughts about selling public land?
I'm from Utah originally. Something that happened in northwestern Box Elder County when they decided to do pretty much the same thing. People went in and bought every other section of property. It looked like a big checkerboard. They basically landlocked 50% of the area. You couldn't cross into it, period.
Yeah.
So that's one problem. Another problem, during one administration, they decided to trade Antelope Island for some prime hunting and fishing up in the Colville area.
Yeah.
And so we were no longer allowed to use that. So, that's up.
Okay, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to our next caller. Caller, your thoughts really quick about private land. We've got a lot of people trying to get through. What do you think?
I think we need to take a second look at what property they want to sell. There are checkerboard, like the previous caller said, there are checkerboard properties in the middle of private land that makes no sense that it's owned by the government. So don't just think about, the trail I'm riding on, I'm going to lose. Think about the whole picture. And if we can eliminate costs by selling some of those properties, we'd be a winner.
Yeah. You know what? I would agree with that. I think land that is currently inaccessible to the public, and the surrounding private property owner can just absorb it. They need to pay fair value for it. That belongs to the taxpayers. I don't want them just picking it up for tiny cost. But I think that we could look at things like that. Let's go to our next caller. What do you have to say, caller, about private land? Go ahead, or public land.
I don't know if the other caller said this, but up in Driggs along Ski Hill Road a few years ago, some man bought a bunch of property along there, and he didn't do anything with it for a year or two, and then he cut off all access along that trail from the north and the south. So, I don't like that. He's developing it, of course, which I also don't like. But
yeah,
yes, I'm a no.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the call. Caller, go ahead. What do you have to say about selling public land?
Definite no. And I think when you talk about the state managing this land, they may be capable. However, Idaho is a low taxing state, so they aren't going to have the funds to manage those lands, and they will just get off and stop.
All right, I'm going to let you go. Too much road noise. Can't really hear what you're saying. Let's go to the next caller. Caller, what do you have to say about selling public land? Go ahead. You're on. Okay, let's go to this caller. Go ahead.
Is that me?
It's you. Yeah, go ahead. Real quick.
The government would just waste the money anyway. They're not going to do anything good with it.
Okay, thank you for the call. You know what? That's a really good point. If they'll get rid of the current excess they already have within the government, but I don't know if I like selling off public lands that we have access to and that we own just so they can utilize it for more bloated expenditures. That's a really good point. Let's go to the next call. What do you have to say about selling public land?
I went to a presentation about the public lands, and I guess there's laws on the books that they're already supposed to have disposed of. It was already when they acquired all the land that they were supposed to sell it off or dispose of it or turn it back over to states. And so there's already stuff on the books.
Yeah. Well, and that's true. I would hope that they would turn it back to the states. But let's go to the next caller really quick. Go ahead.
I'm all for it. Turn it back to the states and let the states decide what to do with it. If they dispose it, they can put covenants on it that says, hunting and fishing is still allowed. That are just like covenants when you go into an HOA or something like that. And, that's going to discourage these black rocks and stuff from buying it because they want it lock, stock, and barrel. But there's no provision for the federal government to own anything other than forts, ports, post offices, roads. So to be truly constitutional, it needs to be all returned to the states.
Okay.
And then the states can decide what to do with it.
All right. Thank you for the call. All right. I gotta get out here because we're under the constraints of time. I'll be back after this. 9:50 on News Talk 107.9. 9:57 on News Talk 107.9. And last minute here, just keeping an eye on the news cycle. There probably are going to be more clips of the Ted Cruz interview with Tucker Carlson. We'll have some of those tomorrow. Also, we're going to keep an eye on the Iran situation. And Trump is saying it's not too late to negotiate. In fact, he told a reporter at the event, they were putting up a couple of flagpoles at the White House. He said, it's never too late. If it's really late, then I have more leverage. But it's never too late for someone to come to the table. But he is now demanding the complete surrender of the Iranian regime. That's probably not going to happen. So we'll have the latest for you on a Thursday morning tomorrow right here on News Talk 107.9. Clay and Buck are up next. Thanks for all your phone calls and your participation today. We'll see you tomorrow.